So what's up, people, and welcome to the Chapter 16 discussion of 僕らの血盟 or Our Blood Oath. So Chapter 16 came out a couple of days ago, and as always I will leave a link to that chapter, which is currently being shown on the publisher's official website for the North American audience, Manga Plus, for at least a few weeks. So if you're interested, I will go take a look at it right away before they pull the chapter back. But in any case, Chapter 16 starts off where Chapter 15 left off, where we see that mysterious gentleman at the end of Chapter 15, and in Chapter 16, we find out who it is. The gentleman's name is Rangetsu, and he turns out to be not only a vampire, but a very, very powerful one. And we find out that just from the sheer terror that you see in the eyes of the leader of that human vampire hunting group that came along. And he turns out to be an acquaintance of Shin and Ko. Originally, I thought that he was going to be an acquaintance of Kane and Haiga, of the Akatsuki clan. But it turns out that he is an acquaintance of Shin and Ko. And as you can imagine, when he sees that Shin and Ko are being pursued by these human vampire hunters, despite the cheerful demeanor that he expresses throughout this chapter, he is not too happy about the fact that the humans are hunting Shin and Ko. And so he communicates that very strongly in this chapter. And with that, as you can imagine, the human vampire hunters pull back. And it's later on that we find out a few additional things. First of all, it turns out that Rangetsu is a relative of Shin and Ko, an uncle. But it's an uncle on the mother's side, and because of that, we find out additional information with regards to the 7 royal vampire families. So we know about the Akatsuki, the group that Kane and Haiga are from. And of course, Shin and Ko are from the Hitsuki bloodline, the royal vampire family, the one that the vampire king was associated with. But Rangetsu comes from the mother's side, and the mother's side's bloodline is from another vampire coven called the Kozuki. So there's the Akatsuki, there's the Hitsuki, and there's the Kozuki, all related to a moon name. But in any case, it turns out that Rangetsu is almost a mentor for Shin and Ko. And we learn one of the questions that came out way in the early chapters of the series, where we saw Ko walking through that gigantic mansion where they're living in. We always wondered, considering they're orphans, how come they can live in such a palatial home? And it turns out that that home is actually owned by Rangetsu, and Shin and Ko are staying there. And so it is that close that Rangetsu basically took guardianship of Shin and Ko after their parents passed away. And this brings up, though, an interesting question. It turns out that, of course, at least the Kozuki clan are very close to Shin and Ko because of their mother's bloodline. And probably the Hitsuki clan, if there is anybody left surviving beyond Shin and Ko in the royal bloodline, are probably also very close to Shin and Ko. So there are some very strong vampire allies siding with Shin and Ko. So how did whoever killed Shin and Ko's parents, who were the royal bloodline, how were they able to kill Shin and Ko's parents, considering there was such a strong tie to very powerful vampires such as Rangetsu? And even if they were able to successfully kill Shin and Ko's parents, how were they able to get away if people like Rangetsu would be probably going after them? So who exactly was that vampire that killed Shin and Ko's parents? Whoever it is very mysterious and is very, very powerful. But in any case, Rangetsu turns out to be a very cheerful demeanor vampire, and he gives me the vibes of somebody like Kakashi in Naruto, right? A mentor who's kind of happy-go-lucky, but at the same time very, very powerful. But despite his cheery demeanor, what we find out at the very end is we do see his moral perspective, because he does come out very, very dark at the end, talking to Kane and Haiga about what they did to Kiri and Aki. And we also get a glimpse of Rangetsu's power, at least a little bit of it, and his blood weapon. And it is a very, very interesting blood weapon. So if you're interested in it, yeah, I would go take a look at this chapter. But anyway, that's chapter 16. We're starting to get some very interesting expansion into the world. We're starting to get a lot more depth into the vampire clans. And we're getting some introductions into some very interesting characters as well. So anyway, I'm looking forward to the next chapters coming out, and when they do, I'll upload some more videos, and I hope you join me at that time. But that was chapter 16 for Our Blood Oath, or Bokura no Ketsumei, and thank you very much for listening. And as always, Jaya, nice day, everyone.